Hey there, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants. The Undead Matt here. So recently you might be aware of the fact that we have been changing things around for the podcast. And one of those things has been to actually find a new place so we can actually distribute our content out so that way it can stop taking away from our budget. Yeah, that is literally one of the reasons. And I'm being completely honest with you about it, because when we started the show, we had to get used to the fact that a good chunk of our budget how to go to a media host so our content could be distributed to iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and all the other major and not so major platforms that stream podcasts. So when I heard the fact that anchors can do it and will do it for free, I was immediately skeptical, thinking that this is too good to be true type of thing. Well, thankfully, I am more happy to be wrong than I am right in a lot more instances. And this is one instance where I'm glad I am wrong. Not only does Anchor not charge you to distribute your content, but they actually pay you to actually put out your content. That's right. They will actually pay you and do not require you to have a certain amount of listeners in order to do that. Which it kind of blew my mind, because again, when we started, we understood the fact that you needed a minimum amount of listenership in order to get sponsors, in order to get paid from your media host. But thankfully, Anchor does not work like that. They built this site with the eager podcaster in mind for the eager podcaster. And what's so fantastic about it is not only will they just pay you to, do what you want to do and talk about what you want to talk about and do the things that you love, but it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's right. They do the work for you. They distribute your podcast everywhere. That, with the fact that they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or your phone, makes this an absolute must for any podcaster starting out or who has been in the business for a while now. It has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And here's the thing now, if you want to be part of it, again, this is all free. So make sure you go and download the free Anchor app right now and go to anchor.fm to get started. It takes less than 5 minutes to switch over your content. I mean, we have almost 150 episodes in total, also, considering all of our bonus content. And when we switched everything over, it maybe took 3 to 5 minutes for everything to fully switch over, and there was no issue at all. They're very, 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 very effective with bringing your content over to the new Anchor site and making the transition as smooth as possible. Anchor, again, is absolutely free to use, and we are glad that we made the switch. And again, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants, please check them out. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. With that being said, let's jump into some horror. Welcome back, everybody, to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. I am the Undead Matt.
And I'm Krampus Cody.
And today we're here to remind you that if you're still in Colorado and you're dealing with our fluctuating weather, and this is your first time dealing with it, welcome. This is normal. And if this is your 100th time dealing with it, right, going to get cold here again real soon.
I know, I'm waiting for 10th winter.
That sounds awful.
Today's episode is brought to you by slashingcast.net. Again, that is currently where you can find all of our episodes, Patreon links, merch links, everything. So if you want to support us, please make sure you also support slashingcast.net. They've been pretty good to us. That being said, we are excited to have some returning guests. These ones have been, it's been a minute since they've come on, about, I'm going to say 2 years now, it feels like. That feels about appropriate. I'm sure.
Has it been that long? Oh my God.
It might have been. I think it might have
sad.
been. When they first came on, they originally came on for just a bonus episode to talk about their graphic novel they were working on at the time, and now they are here to update us on said graphic novel. Please, everybody, welcome in.
The same graphic novel 2 years later.
Please welcome Emily and Dan of The Zombie Game.
Sound effects.
Yes, sound effects, explosions.
Thank you for having us on again, guys.
Of course.
I hope the listeners don't mind me still doing some sound effects here and there. I know they're thinking, they're just like, get a goddamn board like every other podcast and do it. But no, we are organic, we are punk, we do it ourselves.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Much more fun than a soundboard.
Yeah.
I don't need those fancy gadgets to make my own explosion sounds.
iPod? What's an iPod? Back in my day, when you want to listen to music, you would have a bag of batteries and a CD player and have yourself a good afternoon.
I don't miss carrying that fucking Walkman around.
Again, dude, I was one of the people that was against iPods when it first started. I was serious.
Too.
I was like, no, fuck that. CD players is the way to go, man. That's the best sound you're ever gonna get. It's fucking CD players. As like, I'm wearing trip pants and I have one side filled with like 5 CD cases, and the other big pocket actually has my CD with backup batteries. And I'm like, yeah, this is a great way to live. This is super seamless.
Dude, when I went to Japan, fucking, like, everyone looked at me like I was ridiculous because I was on the plane going through all my CDs, finding which one to look for while everyone else was on their fucking MP3 players and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this album now.
Well, thanks to the pandemic, we can relive those days.
Yeah. And also, and another thing that I kind of realized that when I thought about it was one of the other cons of having a CD player, even if you had the digital CD player where you could select the track, is that if you went back a track too much or too forward too much, you could end up scratching the disc. So like, I really had a lot of gusto with standing by the CD player from back in the day.
Yeah, it was and it was like a status symbol too, like when you got it and how new it was and like what kind of headphones you had and all that.
Oh, the other thing was if you got the non-skip CD player, so you could actually around with it.
Thing. Yeah, because I had one of the originals, and that thing sucked.
Yeah, mine did too.
Every time it's just like skip.
Had to have it like on a flat surface. It couldn't tilt whatsoever, and you're like, it's good now. And then like, so you leave it next to your arm where you're like doing your homework, and then you go grab your drink afterwards, and you bump it for half a second, and it skips the whole song. You're like, God damn it!
So we are going to talk about this. Sorry, go ahead.
Trying to keep the CDs clean was like impossible. It was like the old days of like blowing into the cartridge where you're like, just for the love of God, don't have any dust on this thing.
No, not on the laser, not the laser.
Right?
And see, like that's that. So because we are going to talk about the zombie game, but because we are on. We are because, but I want to bring this up. So recently I saw, and I hope it's just a joke and it's just trolling, because if not, I'm going to start crying a little bit. But there's a tweet going around of somebody who actually did not know what burning a CD was.
Yes,
and that brought me back to that was those weekend afternoons, or even when you'd come home after school and you would like have to make your own hot track CD list, like, and the ability, giving your computer uncurable AIDS just to find, a song to burn on the CD. Like, there was a real struggle that a lot of kids are never going to have to deal with that we had to deal with.
It was funny. The Gen X reply to that tweet was, it's what TikTok's going to be in 5 years. So,
yeah, right.
I mean,
it's like, don't worry, kids. You'll get made fun of too, you little whippersnappers.
A Spotify playlist is not the same level of angst.
No.
There's not the same feeling of giving your best friend or your crush like a CD or a tape that you picked every single song and hunted down and made and put on that. And it took hours. And
I loved that movie. High Fidelity. When they just talked about the mixtape.
Yeah. It was such a good feeling.
It almost was like doing a drug deal too. Like, because because some people knew where to go to get the best music, knew what sites to get, and they would not tell you. They would not tell you where to go. Like, my sister was one of those people, and she would never tell me where she goes to do it. So I'd always bug her. I'd be like, hey, Trivium's coming out with like another album. Do you want to? Can you find me some of the songs? She's like, I'll see if I'm busy. I mean, I'm like,
trade favors.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, please, I gotta get the new single. I gotta check it out, please. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a golden time in itself. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and be like, appreciate the struggle now. Appreciate it now. Okay. I digress. Enough about CDs. Enough about CD players. Enough about making how old we are very known to the public.
I remember when Nickelodeon tapes were orange.
Oh god. Okay. You know, we're not even going to talk about the zombie game or horror. We're just going to talk about 90s nostalgia now.
Oh dang! I remember 8 tracks.
Laserdisc.
Digimon. You all remember Digimon?
Right.
But moving on.
Or Neopets.
Neopets.
Oh my god. Oh god. That's a whole thing in its own.
Right.
Neopets was crack. People don't get. Okay. I'm about to start talking about Neopets.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So, Emily and Dan, last time you guys came on, we didn't talk about 90s nostalgia, sadly. I'm glad we are getting that out of the way right now. But you did come on to talk about this graphic novel you were making.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. Called The Zombie Game. Can you update us on what the Zombie Game is and where you're currently at?
Yes, and Emily will tell you all the things because she is so much more like. She
I
has
got the best word.
Yeah, she also like writes things down and knows where things are. So I'm gonna let her talk.
She's eloquent and prepared.
That's right.
Well,
over prepared.
Yeah, and I'm not so much. So
you're so humble, and I'm not.
I wrote the thing, but I don't know where it's at, and
or what's happening most of the time, right? So, in case you forget. Loving husband.
Oh, yes.
Our Kickstarter begins March 30th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the book is finished. We are
finished. It's done. Yeah. And wicked exciting.
Yeah. We're so excited to get it in people's hands because we're going to have a whole bunch of like crazy extras for our Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We're going to have all sorts of prints.
She drew an entire like coloring book while this whole process has been going on. So we got that going. It's a horror coloring book based upon the dog's like version of what's happening in the actual graphic novel. It's cool. It's been a long process, so we've had a lot to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The art's awesome. Yeah, we're really psyched.
And we even have a bunch of secret tiers, which only get revealed once we hit some of our goals.
Yes, gotta hit some goals.
And we have some special like early bird rewards. There might be Nicolas Cage involved in a horror capacity.
Yeah.
So. But
he'll do anything for $100.
That's
no, I'm just kidding.
He's on Cameo, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we start March 30th.
Yeah.
Waiting for all your stimmy money. Come bring it to us. I don't know if anyone's gotten checks yet. We haven't. We're too poor for that, I guess.
Yeah. And so so last time you came on the show, you talked about your art as well, and then this artist that you got on. Yeah. To create it, and just want to say that you've done a really good job of posting a lot of this on Instagram, and just a lot of this art is very stunning and very eye-catching, and I do want to come back to it, but just for our new listeners, can you tell them what the Zombie Game is about?
Absolutely. Our full-length graphic novel is all about a group of college students who go to an end-of-the-year party only to find themselves hunted by the rich in a live-action zombie apocalypse video game.
Patow, patow, patow.
So it's like
sound effects that we don't have a board for.
That's right. Right, for truth. Like, if you are a horror movie fan, just think of this like a movie where you get to fill in the frames with your imagination. So if you've never picked up a comic book before, it's really just a movie where your imagination gets to fill in all the gory stuff on top of all the gory stuff we actually have in there.
Yeah. And also the fact that we the love of horror movies and zombie movies are really felt in this too. Is that there's different levels. So a lot of zombie things, it's one thing happens and you're on a plantation, or you're on a you're in a certain place or on a farmhouse or whatever. But this is much more along the lines of like somebody making this happen. So there's different places and different types of zombies, and so you're not just stuck. And there's a lot of care and specifics about it, and it's really pretty cool. So the first level is like the CDC, and the second level is a farmhouse, and the third level is like a mall. And so each place has a different texture and a color and a vibe and a feel and a zombie. So it's not just just the kind of one-off thing. And with all great zombie movies, the true like evil is the other people, and so we wanted to amplify that, and I think we did a good job.
Yeah, and we're excited to get started.
We're just so happy that it's done.
Yeah.
Like our artist is amazing. Not the fastest guy, but like absolutely amazing. And so we've been like, this project has been going on for quite some time, and I'm proud of it. I'm just so proud of it to get it into people's hands so that they have like a tangible thing, kind of like a CD, right? Like a tangible book. Like we made a book, and it's beautiful and it's awesome. And so just to like people to have that and hold those things, it's just such a it's just a different experience.
So I mean, it's kind of like the theme for this month of just putting in your dues, trusting the process, and putting in the work, and eventually you will make something out of it, and something will come from it. And it's just awesome to hear you both so excited, and it sounds like you have a little of a bit of a humble tone to it too. But that in mind, I mean, just the excitement that we hear, that me and Cody hearing both of you, I think I can speak for both of us when we say is very intoxicating. I mean, we're one. We are glad that
Can I get some of that?
We can't wait to get our copies. That's for sure. But
we're really excited to. I mean, we're super psyched to send them out.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's so amazing. Like sometimes I had a vision in my head, right? Because like when I was young, Fright Night was really this scary thing, and so I was like, yeah, I want to cover like Fright Night. So if you look at the color. The cover has nothing to do with Fright Night at all. It's not even the color tones, palette, or anything, but it's freaking awesome. And so, like letting things go, and then it being better than you expected it to be, and it's we're just psyched.
Yeah, and there's an actual story.
Yeah, well.
So you get zombies, and you get a little bit of story, and maybe some themes even.
Yeah.
Not to get too fancy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good time. It's a good read.
Hell yeah!
I'm excited.
You're both so humble. But no, I mean, what I think is really cool about it is that the zombie landscape of horror, I mean, just to be candid about it, has been very much milked to what some could say dry to a point. I mean, obviously one of the biggest is The Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman. Yeah. The show is now finally wrapping up to kind of not a lot of praise. I mean, a lot of the original fans, walked off from it, but
too long.
I left about season 5 or 6. Yeah. Like it was like the first couple, like I like the first season was amazing. Yeah, but I after I think it was Negan, I was just done. But sorry.
That's when I left too. Like I left right after Negan got introduced, and I was like, and the thing that stuck for me is I was super excited because I thought that was perfect casting.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey then I was Morgan, just and I was just like, fuck yeah. And then for whatever reason, just after like the first 2 episodes of that season, I was just like, eh.
Well, it's because that he was trying to be like the Joker. Or at least that's kind of how it felt like they did it, and he's too cool to be the Joker, as a person, and so it felt awkward. and he didn't have the chaos that was necessary. And I was just like, and they're trying to force like a 2 or 3 episodes into an entire season now, and it got so predictable in that way that you're just like, this is another filler episode. Okay,
yeah, so bloated.
Yeah,
where it's just like, we don't need to see all that, and like there's only so many storylines in the apocalypse, right? And eventually, all you can do is just cycle people in and out.
Well, and this is the other thing about even going into that genre, is because it is so like, it's so saturated with just stuff like, you know, I think they have the Nazi zombies, and it's just you know, whatever zombie and people running
even
around,
romance zombies now.
And so like, just to even attempt to go into that, you know, genre, it's like you have to have something, or at least I felt like I had to have something new and something to say with it. And that's why like people are really interested in it, because it is different. You know, it is a little different. It's like, it's not a you know, the stupid apocalypse. It's not, you know, a virus. It's not this. It's centralized, and somebody's doing this, and there's a Saw element to it, and who would be doing this, and why, and what's the, you know, and all those things come into play, because, you know, zombies aren't evil. Zombies are zombies. It's the people that are evil, you know.
Well, we got to explore a great cast of characters too, like that we took from our life and our experiences. Like, we find that like they're a group of outcasts that really get to use their faults as the thing that, you know, helps them try to survive the game. And maybe they make it and maybe they don't. But we wanted to like have that sense that like you knew these people who were kind of messed up and like used by society, and that's why like our main character is a veteran, and like there's a pre-med student with a tiger mom, and a washed up football player who's busted his knee.
Yeah, it's just, I tried to like layer more like some social commentary in there about like, because, you know, everything's just, oh, this is the jock and the this, and we have these specific, you know, tropes and people that we throw in these, but I wanted to really make them human and give them 3 dimensions, and I think we did a really good job of that coming across. And so, you know, looking at it in a very saturated marketplace, I only went into it thinking that I could do something somewhat unique. And because I brought in themes and elements from, you know, that aren't normally there, or are only there in the good stuff. And that's the thing that I wanted to be a part of, is like, I didn't want to go into a genre if I couldn't add anything. So there.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I like the whole idea of the way you said, the whole Saw aspect of the zombie thing. Yeah, where like, you know, like you said, it's the humans doing this because zombies are just zombies, and like that makes me all excited of like, oh shit, like it's, you know, the traps and whatnot, just sprinkled zombies in there, like that's fucking cool.
Yeah, you know, because I think Chris Rock said it. You know, it's like a tiger doesn't go crazy, a tiger goes tiger. You know, a person goes crazy, and I wanted to play with that. It's like zombies are never really the true evil in any zombie movie. It's always the other people that they're dealing with and their fears and their, you know, what they're doing. So then to play with that was really fun.
Cool.
So then what I want to ask you then, because now since like zombies have obviously become so mainstream, and you know, everybody's experienced it, you know, whether it was the most common with being The Walking Dead, or even just kind of even on smaller scale with other zombie projects out there. How did you incorporate, not just how did you incorporate, but without giving too much away, how did you take on the human aspect of it? I mean, everybody's aware now that the most thing that you can fear in a zombie apocalypse isn't just the zombies, but your fellow man. And with that being a prevalent theme, how did you field it for your book?
Well, so basically I took that and then I amplified it, right? So if you're worried about the people, because I of the way I kind of created the game or kind of created the zombies in themselves. So it's done by a drug. It's not done by like a virus or whatnot. So this thing is controlled and manipulated by an individual. So that person is kind of like the overseer, like the game master. Mm-hmm. And then you had the people that are actually playing the game that are people that are paying to participate in this. So those guys are like the soldiers through this, right? And then you have our heroes who are just people at the party who don't have a reaction to the drug. So there's multi levels of it, as opposed to like kind of like, you know, Saw or those kinds of things where there's somebody's like a puppet master. So you have the bad guys who are like the game, and then you have the heroes, and the heroes don't know that they're gamers, and so you have this kind of like give and take. So I added another level on that evil part and allowed those people to be like just evil from the start, as opposed to it's just like, oh, we're frightened to be able to survive, so we're going to throw this person in front. Well, we've seen that so much, right? We know that guy is going to close the door so they can't come in, and it's, you know, in Train to Busan, we know that's going to happen because we've seen it so many times. But then just take that layer of like worry away, and then just let that, it's like they know they're playing, so they can shut the door and then they can open it if they want. And you don't have to be worried about that. You can be going, okay, how are they going to get to the next thing? What's the next thing? And so, like, you're trying to solve the puzzles or trying to get to the next thing. And so I turned that anticipation of those, you know, tropes, and I turned that into more of the situation of the game. And so I think that that's what turns it a little bit, is that some of those things that you need to that you're just kind of used to seeing because that's the normal human reaction don't have to be there. We can move on.
I think we also really tried to write dimensional characters as well. Like you get to know them in kind of the quiet times, which is what movies do well. Like there's a purpose to the times when they're not fighting zombies, is because you want to learn about who these people are. You want to care about them. And of course, we have a dog who hopefully you very much care about at the end, who we built into kind of being like basically the pinnacle of the book too. So we hope that you care about them because you know them, or you know someone like them, or they're your brother or your sister or your best friend or something like that. Like these people are as real as we could write them.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, I mean, I don't want to...
answer the question? I know it was like, you probably zoned out there for a little bit. And it's like,
oh, no.
Talking. Why does he talk? He's talking more.
I'm glad you're addressing on it, because a lot of things that our listeners don't know about with right now with recording is that and we've had to do this with every recent episode, even this one, is so me and Cody leave like a moment of silence on like a 3 to 5 second, even for each other, because of like audio latency. So, yeah. So, no, you had our attention the entire time. We just choose to wait a moment because we don't want to accidentally start talking and then accidentally overlap someone else. So
yeah, so we will be awkward at moments.
Great, so are
more
we.
than normal.
Just naturally, not the latency.
Yeah, so we're dating now.
Yeah, basically, it's like our first date.
Yeah. How's your mother been? No.
Don't worry, Gen Z doesn't know what that is either. They just swipe.
No.
I got lucky enough that I was able to get married before having to resort to Tinder, because knowing me and my ADHD and my impulsiveness, I would just like swipe until my fingers are bloodied red. Because it wouldn't even just be swiping on people. It would just be swiping, honestly. It would just be because it's great to be distracted with. Like, just swiping. So,
doom swiping.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they do it in Pokemon Go with special attacks. That's
yeah, right.
way too bring it. bringing it back to it. What I think what we love about not just the zombie game, but about you, Emily and Dan, is that you didn't just want to make just a zombie book just to have a zombie book. You wanted to make your zombie story. You wanted to make your own take on it, your own version of it. And I'm not saying that, not other people have done that, or if we're going to still compare it to Robert Cookman in a sense, that he didn't do it. But I love the fact that you are taking it on and you've made this thing happen, and Zombie Game is out now, and it is your own little baby, Yeah. It is your own project, and you've been able to make it come to life. And I know that I'm still kind of speaking a little general and overall, but it's just the absolute want and passion that you've had for this project. The fact that COVID did happen, 2020 was a wash of a year, and it would have made sense if you guys came out and said, hey, we're delaying this till later in 2021, 2022. I think people would have understood that, but you still saw what the world was doing. You still saw what was being thrown your way. And you said, fuck that. We're making this book. We're getting this done. And we're going to come out with it. And just for being independent, in a sense, independent publishers yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, before we move on, last thing I want to ask is, what is the one hurdle that you both had to learn how to come together on to overcome that you're willing to share on the show?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea what she's going to say, so this should be interesting.
I think through this process, we, honestly, like the book, pretty much partially saved us as humans through 2020. Yeah. Having something to focus on and feeling like we were making progress was a huge part of staying sane. But I think one of the biggest hurdles that we overcame, and sorry, this is probably like mushy, but like Dan and I don't write together.
No.
Ever.
Oh no.
So we had to really learn how to like work with each other on this project, because he develops his stories in quite a different way that hopefully I compliment. But when it came time to actually like turn this into a comic book script, it was like, you can't be anywhere near me, Dan. Please go away. You have written this story, and like we do not write together. Yeah. So we had to make sure that we stayed married.
Yeah. and I think that on my end it was there was two, but the first one was like I wrote it as like a script for a film, and she was like, this would be an amazing graphic novel, and so she had to adapt it. And I didn't understand. It's like, look, all it is a pan to this. And it's like, and she goes, you don't understand. That's 3 panels, and a page has 6, you stupid fuck. And I was like, oh. And I would be like, but this is a really simple, you just need to do this. And she's like, that's 4 panels, you stupid fuck. And so it kept happening.
He would have had like a 3,000 page book. It was we would have been bankrupt at this point.
And I'm like, what about Megan's backstory? She's like, we don't have enough room in this thing. And I was like, And so I think that I had to like come to that and understand what she was like, because she had to adapt it. And I think that was like an amazing thing. And then the same kind of concept happened, but at least I was more prepared for it with the artist, because we would give the artist the stuff, and then the artist would come back, and I'd be like, but that's not what I thought. And she'd be like, but it's the panels. And I'm like, but I thought it would be this. And she's like, well, suck it. And I'm like,
Well, I believe I said, is it good?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the ultimate test.
And so like allowing like an interpretation, kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the like the Fright Night and the cover and everything. It's like allowing somebody else's interpretation of your work to be like manipulated in the way that they see it, and it turned out way better than it would have been like if I tried to micromanage it. Like, so Emily brought so much and experience about like adaptation and like and being
Pablo
able
brought
and
so
Pablo
much.
brought and so and even and Lucas,
our letterer
like created these like what is it?
Sound effects.
Like these layers, some weird layer thing that she knows. But yeah, so this is why I don't talk a lot, because the gerbil is not running. But
you're okay. You're okay.
Yeah, but so the amount of the collaboration that came from it, and after it's done, it's just like, damn, that's odd. It's so each piece was almost a little bit of a, and so it started with the adaptation, but by the end I'm like, yeah, it's freaking awesome. So letting go of a little bit of that, I hate that they call it killing babies, right? It's maybe that's not politically correct enough nowadays. Maybe it's killing ideas or whatever. So it's just little things that I loved in the original that just couldn't be filled, or they weren't needed. And so those little bits of trimming it down just made it so much better.
Well, and Pablo inspired a bunch of different ideas.
God.
When we actually got it in our hands, we actually rearranged the whole last chapter.
Yeah.
Because it is so different, even having it on the page versus in the written form, versus seeing how the artwork flows and how you're trying to tell a story. And all the best bands and all the best artists come together in a collaborative way. So we learned a lot from Pablo and from each other to get this done.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
I like how candid you are about each other. Emily, you need to be far more nice to Dan. That's how could you be so mean to him? He's trying his best.
That's my right as a wife.
To be fair, Dan, you did sign up for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude. The benefits are far better.
She could yell at me, whatever. Everything else is great.
That's just my self-esteem. Whatever. I don't need that.
Who needs self-esteem when you're married? Am I right? I'm gonna go cry now.
Yeah, beat that out of me.
Yeah, that was gone way before her.
So I not a lot of people get to hear about couples that work together. So I'm glad that you touched on it a little bit. I mean, I can imagine how stressful that still can be, though. I mean, because you have one mentality when you're working, as an artist and you're creating something in general, and then when you're doing that with somebody that you do love and that you share that bond with, there is also a different mentality there as well. The whole.
He's a really great writer.
Well, and also it's you have to, when we tried to do it the first time, actually write together, it was an abject disaster. So we kind of made that. It's what's the job? What's my job, and are you writing it? And then I'll give you notes. It's and we had to separate that, because if you didn't give because the it's somebody who has to write it all down and create the song that way, while somebody's just noodling and goofing around, and then it's a song. And I'm kind of the noodler. I just kind of until it's done, and she
writing all the lyrics.
She's writing all the lyrics and all, and it's in what key and all, and I'm just noodling. And so, but she edits me and I edit her, and how we kind of do that is really good. But we had to separate that, and so it's she's do you want to do this? Do you want it? It's no, it's fine. So I was okay, I'm in charge of this part. And having that separation kind of allowed us not to because I think if this was our first project, we would have it would have been more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, it still sounds like you both did the right thing, and you navigated these interesting waters together, and came out on top of it just fine. So, bravo to both of you. I hope that if we have any other listeners that are also tuning in who have a partner that they want to get into something with, look at Emily, look at Dan, and take them as an example of how to do it right.
Or as long as if you want to stay together. It's just separate. Just separate. You have to who's doing what, and be kind. Yeah.
Like, we're doing our best. Like, ultimately, we both wanted the best for the project, and we could recognize that, like, the suggestions weren't personal. Like, it's not that. It's that we're trying to get the best thing out of it. And sometimes it was my idea, sometimes it was his idea, sometimes it was Pablo's idea. But to be open and not precious, because the collaboration is where the magic happens.
Yeah. You can always do like something really great as an individual, but when when there's multiple, like when there's symbiosis on something, that's usually can be really great. And I think that's where I don't know if we got that, or I would be humbling in that way, but it's
at least we didn't suck.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely like it can be better, or and so if I had drew this, which you do not want to see how I draw, but like it would have been very simple and not very good, because I wouldn't have done a lot of things, and so all of the extra pieces on it just made it so much better.
Well, Dan and Emily, thank you so much for sharing so much about not just kind of what personally went into this, but all about the zombie game. Before we move on, where could everyone go to get their own copy of the zombie game and also support you in what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us at The Zombie Game on Instagram and on Facebook. Our Kickstarter launches March 30th, and you can search on Kickstarter The Zombie Game. We tried to make it super simple. It's all the same thing. Or you can, if you follow us on Instagram, all our links are up there as well.
Yeah, what she said, I have no idea where anything is.
Matt, you still there, dude? It was like you went quiet.
Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry, everybody.
I was like,
I hit mute for a moment because I was about to burp, and I didn't want to burp while you were talking. I hit mute, and I thought I unmuted myself. I apologize. That's my mistake.
Oh no, just burp on the podcast. This is punk rock.
Yeah.
You were it's not my fans that it's not a real episode unless you do it.
That's right.
It's true. That is true. Next time I will be as rude as possible and just make you laugh. Like make it sound wet and everything.
Just hear the rest of us just go quiet and go, dude.
Too far. So again, what I was saying is ghouls, cows, creeps, amulets alike, please check out the zombie game on Instagram. Go sign up for their Kickstarter and keep an eye out for your own graphic novel of the zombie game. Make sure you get those orders in. Support them. We know you're amazing listeners, you're amazing supporters of the show, and we know you're fantastic supporters of the horror. With that being said, though, I think we can also now move on to our horror game.
Yes.
It's time to play the horror game.
So without giving away who we're talking about today and the subject of it all, the game and how it's going to stay in theme with it is, so we've been talking about serial killers for a moment now, obviously. We talked about the cannibals, definitely the cannibal ones. Y'all, all you amazing listeners have just been eating it all up, pun intended.
Pun.
So there's only so many games, though, that we can make about serial killers without getting somebody in a watch list. So, with that in mind, I devised this game in light of today's theme. Y'all, if you were a serial killer, I'm not asking you who you would want to kill and what type of people you'd want to kill, because I'm telling you the type of people you would want to kill. You're a serial killer that wants to hunt other serial killers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, the name of the game is, if you're a serial killer, what serial killer would you want to hunt down and kill yourself? So, to keep with the example for our listeners' sake,
fact or fiction? Both.
Fact or fiction, alive or dead. I chose John Wayne Gacy, and I chose to lure him and drop his guard by, working with his MO. I'm gonna go work for John Wayne Gacy. You know, maybe wear a little tight of a shirt one day, and it's a little extra sweaty. And you know, and he's like, Matt, pick up that shovel. And I'm like, you know what? This shovel right here, this heavy shovel that I have to bend all the way to the ground to pick up. This one right here. Oh, I hope you don't watch my back arch. Ooh, it's so heavy. And then he's just not paying attention, like, this shovel, this one that's so heavy. And then just like wail in on him. Yeah, so
that'd be amazing.
Nice.
That's my example. Dan, Emily, or Cody, who would ever want to take it first? What type of serial killer would you be, or at least who would you hunt down, and how would you do
Cody,
it?
Please, Cody, we want to hear yours.
Okay, so I had one for fact and one for fiction, but I'm gonna go with my real guy. So I decided to go after Richard Ramirez. Mostly. I can't. I'll go with the other one, so you guys can keep Richard Ramirez. I go with the other one then.
Oh no, that's fine. It's fine.
Such a divisive topic already.
Like, all right, well, no, I feel bad. I'm gonna go with the other one now. I changed my mind. So now I'll go with my fictional guy. I was gonna be Michael Myers.
Oh,
and so with Michael Myers, I would want to have I'd be having a stock off with him, so I don't be like every time he would pop up, like trying to do the whole creepy, like I'm in the background boogeyman stuff, like he does to Jamie Lee Curtis. I want to be doing it to him. So like when she looks out the window and sees him like, you know, staring up at her, I want to be like behind the fence staring at him, and he's just like turning, like, what the fuck? Like, you know, go through that entire thing where like I'm stalking him the entire time, and right before I end Michael, like before I get my killing blow on him, I'm gonna whisper in his ear, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Oh my god, that's amazing. Have you guys ever seen a short film called Night of the Slasher?
Oh my god. I know what you're talking about. And it was like, I came across it one day on YouTube, like, and I think I was probably at work at the time, and I watched it the once, but I'm aware of what you're talking about, but it's been a moment, to be clear.
It's a great, I know the guy that made it. He used to come to the comic book dinners I ran in LA, and he made an amazing short film that is basically the final girl, like, getting her revenge. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but as you just said, like, you can see it on YouTube. It's called The Night of the Slasher. It's only 11 minutes. It's well worth the watch. It's been in a bunch of like film festivals and stuff. If you're a horror fan, you'll love it.
Cool.
Watch it now. Do it now.
Do it now.
Well, stop.
After you listen to this episode. After this episode.
Then go listen. Then go watch that.
Well, then obviously Dan has to go then.
I have to go now? I was gonna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you gotta talk about Richard Ramirez.
No. So I had a couple. Like now I want to go meta and go into like Freddy's dreams and fuck with the Freddy's dreams kind of situation. I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally fuck Freddy up in his dreams, and he's like scared about me, and that'd be kind of
just dress him around. You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
That'd be so awesome. And I got knives on my toes instead. He's like, why is that? It's scary to me. It's like, yeah, man. It's like
chicken. I got your shins.
I'm gonna cut your Achilles tendon. Now you can't get away. But so the first one was oh God, what's his name?
Did you just forget?
I totally farted out.
You were so excited too.
Richard Ramirez.
No, Manson. The first one was Manson. I was like, dude, it would be so cool to be in the 60s and go to that ranch and have sex with all those people. And I know, and then I was like, gross, because they don't wash themselves and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, I just have sex with a bunch of them, and then I would kill him while he was eating or something.
You just pop out with like a chopstick or something.
Tally ho! Helter skelter.
And I was like, man, You know who's a dick? I was like, Richard Ramirez. That dude is. We just watched a thing on the Night Stalker on Netflix, and that guy was an asshole, and he had no motive. So I was like, how would I find him? It's like, I don't know, but I'd like to kill that dude.
Hide in old lady's bedroom. I
know.
I guess.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I just put like mothballs and carry around like a boomer.
You dress up like an old lady and just like wait as bait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. My entire life, just sit there and wait for him, and that'd be a very long, boring movie. Sitcom. Yeah, it's like I'm a golden girl just sitting there by herself.
See, I would booby trap my house like fucking Home Alone or The Collector, like, because he was known for like crawling through the windows. So I would I would like have a board that was over a pressure plate to where the board that was covering the pressure plate had nails out, and then also Gorilla Glue, so when he would step on it, he'd get stuck, and then the pressure plate would go down, and a fucking axe would just swing and whack! And my argument for, like, because I know, like, the police would be like, well, we gotta take it, and like, so, how would you say this is self-defense? I'm like, well, this obviously wouldn't have gone off if that motherfucker didn't jump through my window. So,
am I right or am I right?
Yeah. That's right.
All right,
Emily's I mean, I feel like mine now is not as fun, because I was going to go with, like, the Zodiac Killer, because everyone wants to find the one they didn't catch, right? I mean... it was all his kills, and it's all like the same era. Like, what the hell was in the water?
Well,
and, like,
no, it's just that it couldn't get caught, man. It was a lot easier to be, like, not caught.
Stealthy about it, I guess.
And they had cars too. They can drive away.
So I highly recommend.
Now.
I highly recommend reading the Mindhunter book. And even watching the show, because they they delve into why there's a lot of actual really good theories about why there were so many serial killers around that time. And one of the big parts of it is that, like, a lot of the serial killers are kids of, like, vets and hardcore military vets, like Vietnam vets and stuff like that. And so their dads are coming home and they're being raised in a violent nature just because their dads are suffering from PTSD, not getting the help they need, and it's just like passing it down. So turn these people into like almost like animalistic soldiers, but there's no war.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that's one kind of thing. Anyway, sorry.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'd love to read that, because I mean they did a whole like podcast on the Zodiac Killer too that was really good. And it was fascinating. I mean, obviously like the Fincher movie as well, but it's fascinating, I guess, because he didn't get caught, and like the letters, and I don't know. All of us want to think we're gonna solve the puzzle, right?
They finally did solve that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how would you catch him and kill him?
How would I catch him?
Yeah.
Well, like, I personally, like, you have to smother him with that hood. You have to, like, strangle him in the hood. Just, like, if you're going to be that type of asshole to wear that stuff, then that's how you're getting killed. That's some sort of, like, karmatic justice.
There you go.
I like how the three of us essentially had fun with ours, but you're going to like a primal state with yours. Like, no, I'm killing this motherfucker. He's going to suffer.
My bare hand.
No, I want to watch.
And welcome to our marriage.
I want to watch the light leave his eyes.
Yes. Help. Send help.
See, you better buy our book now.
So really, those boundaries you guys were talking about originally weren't boundaries. It was Dan getting uppity, and then Emily saying, it looks like your eyes are a little too lively today.
That's right. Exactly. You pegged it.
Mm-hmm. I
see here. Well, you got a great woman there.
Yeah.
No, for real. Both of you are such a power couple. You're lovable to hear about, and just the way you two talk to each other is very intoxicating as well. There's a genuine love there, and I think that's also why we in a biased way enjoy bringing on the show, because it makes us think of how we talk to our loved ones, except for the whole life-threatening aspect of it. But let's go ahead and move on. Thank you for playing our horror game with us.
Wonderful game. Wonderful game.
Cody, what are we talking about today?
All right, so talking about talking about serial killer who hunts serial killers. We actually have a really special serial killer that we're talking about today, and I actually think so. It's one of the few times where I'm actually in the corner of the serial killer. And I'll maybe not with the brutality of some things, but you'll see. So we are actually talking about the real life Hannibal the Cannibal, Robert Maudslay. So this guy it's a heartbreaking story too. But so Mr. Hannibal the Cannibal, his early life, he was born June 26, 1953 in Toxteth, Liverpool, United Kingdom, and he is one of 12 children. When Robert was 6 months old, he was taken to an orphanage with his two older brothers, and it wasn't until about 8 years later, when he was around 8 years old, his biological parents came back to the orphanage to pick him up. And like the thing that's super shitty about that too is they literally had no contact with them whatsoever. Like these parents didn't give a fuck about these three kids until a family actually approached was interested in adopting one of the older brothers. And then their parents were like, oh hell no, and they came back and picked him up. And so yeah, and so it gets worse from there. So they suffer, all the children, especially Robert. For some reason, Robert was their favorite. They all suffered severe abuse, and Robert would go on to talk about some of this abuse to someone who is like his only friend. It was a therapist. I only heard his name once, and I forgot to write it down, so I apologize, but he actually had a therapist later on in life that worked great roads with this guy, strides and like progression. Mm-hmm. And he ended up telling him that his father locked him in a room for 6 months straight and would only come into the room to beat him around 4 to 6 times a day. And like that's the only interaction he had with him for 6 months. And he would use sticks and rods. And one of the ones that really stuck out to him is that his dad actually broke the bust of a .22 air rifle off his back. Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, and so after about 12 months of this, so he dealt with all this crap for about a year. Robert was finally taken away and put into foster care, but it was only Robert out of all those kids. Like they only took one, and it's like, I mean, he did get the brunt of it all, but like still, they should have taken them all. At that point, and just suffering from all that abuse, Robert, at the age of 16, fled to London, and that around this time he developed a drug habit and a severe drug addiction, and at this time, it's in the late 1960s UK and 1960s anywhere. When you have a drug addiction, you tend to be turned to prostitution to fund your addiction. And so he turned to prostitution for that. And so for several years, that was kind of his life. And then he actually ended up having 2 major psychological breakdowns during this time, and he attempted suicide on both times and failed. He failed on both accounts, and he actually got a little help. Like the state kind of forced him to go get mental help at that point. And this is where he started like showing signs of like there's something more, something more wrong with this guy. He needs help, but no one would actually help him because he claimed that he was hearing voices, and the voices were telling him to kill his parents because he just had so much anger towards them, which is fair. Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And so he would actually claim that if he truly believes that if he followed through with the voices of killing his parents, he actually would have never committed the 4 murders that he did. And so, yeah. And so fast forwarding a little bit to his very first murder. So in 1974, Robert met John Farrell. spelled differently. He's not famous. He doesn't sing. And so there was one account that said after John approached Robert like as just a boy of the night instead of lady of the night, a man of the night, he actually wanted more from Robert and wanted to pursue more of an actual relationship. And they said there was one account on that. Others say it just kept staying the more professional relationship between the two, and it kind of went on for a couple months. And so after keeping this up for a few months, Pharrell decided that he wanted to spice things up a little bit with Robert and try something new. And so he shows Robert a photo of children, and not very good pictures of children. So he claimed that these were children that he had assaulted and everything, and he wanted to do things with our very own Mr. Robert Maudslay. And so at that point, Maudslay freaked the fuck out. He got sick into his core, and he and so much anger boiled up inside because it triggered him, because he suffered a lot of sexual abuse as a kid and just a lot of abuse in general and stuff, and it just triggered him. And so he straight up garrots this guy. Like he garrots him, stabs him, and just smashes him in the head with a hammer.
Damn.
And I'm like, good.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm so far I'm on his side too.
Exactly. So he kills Pharrell and just like brutally just massacres this guy. And Robert Maudslay actually, he couldn't handle the guilt of it. Like this guy, like after everything researching about him, like he wanted help and he wanted to get better so bad. Like he just wanted help so bad, but he just could not get it. So he felt so guilty. He went to the police and like just, bloodied up and everything, just walks in there and goes, "Hey, I killed a dude."
That's a ball.
Yeah, it just goes up to the police, says, "I killed the guy," took him to the body and everything, and it was just like, "Yep, there he is. There's the dude. Send me somewhere. I need help."
Super dead.
There he is.
Yeah, basically, yeah, very much. Look, by the way, he's a pedophile too, so that's why I killed him. Like, that was the thing. And they found out all about this like dead pedophile, and they're like. And, like, I kind of feel like there was someone in his corner that he didn't know about. Like, I feel like there's this police officer that was like, "Look, he killed a disgusting human being.
Yeah.
We can't send this guy to prison."
Yeah.
And so, because another thing with Maudslay is he wanted to go to prison because he thought that's where he would get help. And so... no. And so he was actually found unfit to stand trial after all this, and they sent him to the Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital. And so for a little bit, it kind of worked for him. But after like hold on, 274. Okay, sorry, I had to do a little bit of math on years. So for a couple of years, like it fit for him a little bit. Like it started working because like he was kind of getting help and whatnot, but like it's still the psychiatric wards in the 70s all over the world weren't great.
No,
and like they're not really that good now, but like they're a lot better than it was back then, and that was still fairly new. So like it was basically like mini jail, I feel like, back then. And so Maudslay was actually locked up with a lot of terrible people, and it ended up triggering him at one point when he figured out that he was that there was a bunch of sex offenders and abusers and stuff like that, and where he was. And so in yeah, exactly. So in 1977, Robert Maudslay got a buddy. His name was David Cheeseman, and they actually conspired and ended up locking themselves in a room with 26-year-old David Francis, who is a convicted sex offender and a pedophile, I think he was serving a life sentence for pedophilia. And so, he was serving 5. the next person's a life sentence that I'm going to talk about. But he was serving 5 years. And so this one was insane. So for 9 hours, they tortured this guy.
Whoa.
And so what's really the reason why I kind of laugh is like, so they couldn't really barricade the door, I'm guessing, because how they kept themselves in there for 9 hours is anytime a nurse would try to go in, they'd be like, no, I'm going to fucking kill him. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. They're like, fuck off. And so they tortured this guy for 9 hours, and they ended up finally killing him. And so this kill is very significant. So, because this is the one that ended up giving Robert his famous nickname, Hannibal the Cannibal, or Brain Eater, or, this is my favorite, Spoons.
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 That just sounds downright friendly.
I know, like, I wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm a serial killer, I'm this badass motherfucker, and I'm gonna go buy spoons. So
that seems legit. I would be terrified of that dude.
To be fair, if a well-known serial killer was after me and his name was Spoons, I'd still run.
It's like, what? I would cut your hothouse with a spoon. It's like, why not a knife? It's like, it hurt more.
They're good for eyes scooping.
Like, it just reminds me of that old like Adult Swim short or whatever with the like crazy ghost who just beats this dude to death with a spoon over like 10 years. Yeah, so okay, bringing it back. So he got this the reason why he ended up getting this nickname was actually because of how brutal the killing was. And so what happened and so the people, rumors were spread about this murder that he cut the dude's head off and took a scoop of his brain and ate it. Hence Hannibal the Cannibal. Like the rumors of this kill inspired that scene with Ray Liotta in Hannibal, where he's taking his brain and eating it and stuff like that. Hannibal, like this rumor inspired that scene, and it didn't even fucking happen. So, what actually happened? Yeah, what actually happened is that a prison officer who witnessed the entire thing. He was there for all 9 hours, like the entire episode thing that happened, and he actually said what happened was that Robert fastened a plastic spoon into a shiv. He broke like chunks off the sides of the spoon into super sharp, and he just shoved it through the dude's ear into his brain.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how he finished him off. Yeah, that's how he finished him off. And spoons. So, and it went from there that when the I can't think of their name, the people who exhumed dead bodies.
Mortician.
Mortician, yeah, the people who do the autopsies.
Oh, not the mortician.
Yeah, but anyways.
I'll look it up for you really quick.
Sorry. But the guys who do the autopsies and whatnot, it actually might be mortician, but I don't know. Anyways, they said
I know it's also like body examiner.
Yeah. So when they pulled the spoon out, they said it looked like brain matter and whatnot, and that's how how the rumor went from there. And so, yeah. And so, a
forensic pathologist.
There we go. Forensic, yeah. That person. Yeah, and so the rumors went from there. And so again, he actually did this murder also because he was asking for help. He warned everybody that he was going to kill someone again because he was hearing the voices before this thing. And so because he wasn't getting the help, he went, you know what? I need a big fucking spectacle. Maybe they'll listen to me now. And so he convinced this guy, and then obviously he got known to be a cannibal, even though he didn't eat anybody. And so after this incident, he finally gets what he wants. Robert Maudslay is sentenced to life in prison at Wakefield Prison. And after a year in prison, where obviously things are a lot worse than they were at the psych ward, and he's put in with a bunch of more dangerous people, like murderers, everything I said before, plus and then some, child murderers and all this other stuff. And so Maudsley, again, asking for help because he kept claiming that he's hearing voices again. He needs, his temper's coming back. Like, he's like asking for help and no one's listening to him. And so he just snaps and finally is like, all right, fine, fuck it. Maybe this worked 2 times before. And so on July 29th, 1978, Robert Maudslay lured 46-year-old Salney Darwood. This guy is serving life in prison for sexually assaulting and killing his wife. So he lures this man into his room, and once he's there, Maudslay uses a makeshift garrote and starts garroting him. Again, he has a makeshift shiv made from a spoon and stabs him repeatedly. Spoons! And then just goes insane and smashes this dude's head into a wall until it's pulp. And God. Yeah, after this, he just like tucks the body under the bed. Yep, keeps the spoon. The spoon.
I brought this from home. This is my spoon.
I made this. This is fine. He's like, I made it with my own flesh and tears. Okay? And so he hides his body under a bed. He tries for like a good hour trying to lure more people into his room, not thinking, some people probably heard this guy getting massacred in his room, And so he's trying to lure more people because he just needs to keep killing. Like, these voices are still going. And so Sorry, no, go ahead.
I have to imagine that conversation he has. Hey, you wanna come hang out later this evening? I think I'm good, man. I think I'm gonna pass. No, you should come. It's cool. I put up a new drape in my cell. You know what? I'm gonna take your word for it and brain check. Are you sure? It's pretty cool, man. I think you're gonna like hanging out with me. I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Collection?
You want to see my spoon collection?
Pretty shiny spoons. I think you're really impressed.
The best part about that too is like everyone in the prison knows what he did. So they know about the spoon, like the spoons. They know his nickname and everything, and he still managed to get one guy in there. Right. It was most likely for drugs, but like he was like, "Hey, I got some drugs. Spoons are good for making meth."
And everybody here likes meth, am I right? Of course I am.
Of course. So after a hot minute, like where no one he couldn't get anybody to like come into his room again, he goes out on the prowl. And this is the same day. He just murdered a guy. He decides to just walks out, hides the body under his bed, and finds an inmate sleeping in another room. And he identifies the inmate as 56-year-old William Roberts, not Roberts. And so this man is he is serving 7 years for assaulting a 7-year-old girl. So he's a pedophile. I don't think that's right. He should be serving life, but doesn't matter because Maudsley he's about to. Yeah.
Maudsley's just hanging out on the ceiling like Batman, like I am justice.
This is for the kids.
Like fucking throws his spoons like a goddamn batarang. Almost tit for tat like the mystery man with the forks but spoons instead.
Yep. It's not that I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. Phew, 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 phew. And so Maudsley kills the man with the spoon, stabs him to death. And then after this, all the voices finally subside. And Maudsley fucking just walks right in the guard's office, covered in blood, holding his spoon, drops the spoon on the table, and fucking says, "You're gonna be too short for roll call."
You're gonna be too short for roll call. I'm taking my lunch now.
Yeah, fucking admits to everything, like to killing these two people.
Wow.
this dude's my fucking hero.
I mean, again, not idolizing serial killers, but in this case, he did what the justice system failed to do.
Like, and so when you hear about like his after his like killings and everything, he specifically says like he specifically went out for these people, like not these people exactly, but pedophiles and stuff, because that's where his anger was coming from.
Yeah, and
he's one of the few, and he's a case of like one of the few serial killers, because most of the time when it comes to serial killers, it's a pain that was inflicted on them. They feel they need it inflicted on someone else. And so what I like with Maudsley is instead of inflicting it on the innocent, he's like, oh, why the fuck would I attack the innocent? I'm going to attack the people who are like the person who attacked me.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Like, that's how, like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, you go, Maudsley. That's how it should be.
Yeah, murder the fuck out of them.
Yeah, it's like, kill him.
Get him.
Yeah.
I just say, my opinion, there's only one type of person who shouldn't be alive on this planet, and it's fucking pedophiles. It's my opinion. Yeah.
No,
sorry.
We're gonna get real now. No.
Oh shit! She's bringing out a spoon, guys. Hold on.
Oh, that's a dick. Oh, yeah, that's a dick.
Scared our dog.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry.
He's not that sorry.
All right, so now this is where, like, in my opinion, the story gets sad for me. So in 1983, Maudsley is sent to solitary confinement, where he is still being held to this day. Maudsley is on track to be to set the record for the longest confinement in solitary ever. He has not been released. And so he, in his cell, the reason why he is pretty much a life sentence in solitary confinement, because he is deemed too dangerous to be around other inmates. He was put into a cell that's 5.5 by 4.5 meters. It is contained within a series of bulletproof windows. It's a two-person cell, so they kind of like took what was originally like a two individual cells, knocked out the middle wall, and they built this cell specifically for Maudsley. And if you want like an actual like visual representation, it's the literal cell of Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. They built the cell exactly like how his Maudsley's would look like. Oh. Yep, and Maudsley's story is actually heavily inspired the story of Hannibal Lecter and the story of Silence of the Lambs, because Maudsley is actually a very smart man. He has an extremely high IQ, and everything. It's just he was dealt a terrible hand in life, and so yeah. And one of the things that actually really sucked, Maudsley is also an extreme cautionary tale of mixing fact with fiction. And so ever since his time in solitary confinement, like I kind of talked about earlier, he's had this therapist. And so he had this therapist that dedicated pretty much his entire life in working with Maudsley. They set up, I can't remember the therapist's name, and I'm apologize. But they set it up to where Maudsley would sit at the far end of his cell, like away from the door on his bed, and the doctor would sit next to the door, but on the bed also, like closest to the cell. And so they would just have talks. And if Maudsley felt like he was ever getting triggered, he would warn the doctor, and the doctor would just leave, and like that would be it for the day. No coming back. And so they kept doing this to where Maudsley finally opened up about things and was comfortable with him, and was opening up about how he specifically chose pedophiles to go after, because that's what he went. That was who damaged him, was a pedophile, and he wanted to go after who hurt him. He wanted vengeance instead of to deal it. And so this therapist actually made great strides with Maudsley, to the point where he was actually able to have his own TV. He was able to get a PS2 and had like games and could hang out and like play games in his cell. And he actually got to a point where he was able to have in-person contact with his family, and his family actually became back into his life, and he has a good relationship with his nephew, and his nephew actually told a lot of this in a really good documentary that I watched on YouTube, and so about Maudsley. And so what sucks for Maudsley though is that after all these strides, him and his therapist were trying to push for him to be put into a psych ward and taken out of solitary confinement. And it got put all the way up to the royal family, and they just fucking said no. They denied him. He gets denied at every corner, and it got to the point where they even transferred his therapist somewhere else specifically so he could not have anybody. Like the royal family did this after learning all these things, and I think and this is my like little theory, just because like I love throwing in these shitty little theories that have like make no sense anyways. And so it's just like after everything that came out about the royal family and everything just now, I think like they picked him specifically to do this shit too because he killed pedophiles because they're a bunch of dirty assholes. So they were like, you know what, he was doing the right thing, fuck this guy. And so but yeah, and so another thing with the fact and fiction, why I pointed that out, is that because of Silence of the Lambs and of how crazy Hannibal Lecter is portrayed in the movies and how dangerous he actually is, and the fact that he's a cannibal in the movies is another reason why Maudsley keeps getting denied for like and being considered the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're a cannibal. And I'm just imagining Maudsley standing there every time. I never fucking ate anybody.
I'm spoons.
I stabbed him with a spoon.
You use a spoon once and it follows you for the rest of your life. I swear to God.
Yeah, exactly. Stab one guy in the brain with a spoon and you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah. And so right now Maudsley's still serving his time in solitary confinement on his way to be the longest reigning solitary confinement prisoner ever. Still to this day considered one of England's most dangerous prisoners, even though he hasn't seen a single individual in decades. And
that shit'll drive you crazy, being in solitary, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's allowed 1 hour 1 hour every 24 hours outside.
Wow.
Well, and also just I mean,
he's not even allowed to interact with other inmates. Like, he's completely isolated.
And honestly, I won't even say too recently, but recently, like, the idea of solitary confinement for prisoners has been addressed a bit more, and a lot of questions have been brought up about it, like how effective if it actually is. And there's a lot of prisons that are relooking at their solitary confinement rule within the prison and are starting to rework, if it's even necessary, because there's a lot of people that bring up if it's more of just a torture, because again, you don't get human interaction. Prison itself is supposed to rehabilitate individuals so they can go back into society and be effective members. But if you're constantly putting somebody in solitary confinement, if they mess up or don't follow the rules, for example, then the question comes is, are we just regressing them into bad habits and persisting with encouraging bad behaviors and not really helping these people, making it so that they end up come back to prison after they commit another crime, basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the American prison system is in any way, shape, or form rehabilitative.
No. Oh no, I don't. Honestly, except for I think there's 2 countries. Not a single prison system is fucking working whatsoever anywhere in this world. No, and especially in the UK and the US, because we have similar styles of prison systems.
Yeah, I think there's something in Denmark or one of those countries where they
Denmark, New Zealand, heaven,
something weird like that. Yeah. Where they have a lot of money and it's clean.
Yeah, they pay their citizens.
Yeah. But that's a horrible story.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run around the house now screaming spoons.
Yeah, and I will say I really kind of wish that he killed his parents.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
that.
Yeah.
The reverse Batman.
And it's like as terrible as an ending it is for Maudsley, and like and everything, and a cautionary tale also to remember to not blend fact with fiction.
Right.
Do your research.
Yeah.
Seriously. It's also like, I mean, I also think it's a great story because there's 4 terrible people who didn't deserve to breathe our air that don't breathe our air anymore. So, like in my opinion,
You got a little bit of Dexter in there too, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
But I think I also think that's interesting though, because like, so my only thing about it is that usually when talks like these come up about somebody who did, in this case, do vigilante work, did kill terrible people, I always hear, other people bringing up being like, well, yeah, that you shouldn't associate with a serial killer. You shouldn't, congratulate him for killing. But honestly, when you look at the context of this, and yeah, everybody can always say never applaud the loss of human life. Well, are they really human if they committed such heinous acts towards children? Are they really that human? Can we really make the argument that they deserve a humanity anymore? I mean, I don't agree.
It's called nuance, people.
I mean, we can go into the other people's backgrounds and see how fucked up they got and how they got fucked up. And then, I mean, there's this aspect of like kicking the can down the road and blame and responsibility and all those other kinds of things. So not knowing, like, I don't know those guys' names, but it's like, I'm sure that, one of these guys that he killed had a really bad situation and they were schizophrenic too or something, it's like, they, their dad molested them and they didn't know how to just go and kill other, molesters. They decided to do it, so it's like, there's a lot of crazy, aspects of it, of, just getting the that, but terrible human beings, the whole aspects of evil and stuff like that, there are like sins against humanity, and I don't necessarily think that he is the arbiter of justice.
Oh no. And I also, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just he's not like somebody that is sitting there like weighing, the stones and going, is this guy good or bad? And it's like, he's making assumptions and going, but what if somebody hadn't done that thing and was there, so there's a lot of things, and I understand a lot of different aspects of it, but I feel bad for the guy, and it sucks. I mean, it sounds schizophrenic. He got fucked up. There's that kid who died here several years ago, Gabriel Fernandez, who like was beaten for like months upon months, and they ended up killing him because they just beat him so badly. His parents
I
did
know
that.
exactly what you're talking about. Gabriel Hernandez. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I told Cody about this too. Like in 2019, or was it early 2020? I told you. But yeah, I told Cody about this documentary I was watching on Netflix about him, Gabriel Hernandez, and I mean, it's hard not to have like emotions of wanting to like go find these adults and just like beat them within an inch of their life, especially being a dad who loves this kid and want to do that. I mean, it's hard not to have those emotions.
I would have loved at the end of that, they take Gabriel away and he's beaten, but he comes back, and then later he literally like shoots them in the head or whatever. and then then they're like, okay, we're gonna give you the schizophrenic medicine and we're gonna get you a therapist, and then he's fine. Like that's the best end, the
movie ending,
the best movie ending possible, right? But it's like still it's all fucked. So it's like
what happened to his parents to make them fucked. Yeah,
I mean, it's like you don't want that to happen to anybody, and so we can only I don't know, you can only take so much, and
Yeah, and I think like my biggest thing is like because like as much as I'm definitely one of those people that, like advocates like death to pedophiles, but like when it comes down to it, it's like in the long run I just want rehab for everyone. We need a rehabilitation and really look at things of how how our like everything's being ran, because like Maudsley was asking for help vividly like throughout his entire life. He like before he started killing, he was trying to and like
and just what happened, like we were just discussing it, like in LA they just busted up the homeless encampment in Echo Park, and it's like all of these people got a lot of these people got thrown out on the streets in the 80s when Reagan shut down all the asylums. And, the asylums were bad, don't get me wrong, these weren't like great places, kind of like Robert in these places in the 70s. These were like pretty scary places.
Well, yeah, I mean, like psychiatry in the 60s and 70s was like one step away from an exorcism.
Yeah, you're like shocking people. You're like, hey, maybe this will help.
Yeah.
But at least there was now there's no level of care at all, and and it's there's no rehab, there's no aspect of that, and that's a shame.
Even just the stigma of a mental illness is enough to like lose people jobs, and it's really it's tough to get help still. Even our generation is more open about it than ever before, but it's still tough to get help.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing. Like with this tale too, is just like realizing how, like, what needs to be fixed. Like our prison systems need to be fixed because they need to be more for rehabilitating these people instead of just throwing them into solitary confinement where they go completely insane. They're still hearing these voices. They're not getting fixed, and then like when they get released out of that, they just act on those instincts before because they never got the help, and it's the same with all of our prisoners and whatnot. Like I don't know if you guys have watched 90 Day Lockup or something like that. So basically it's this program, it's this show where these sheriffs are trying to improve their prisons, so they have like civilians dress up and go in as prisoners and go and stay 90 days in their prisons and talk about what needs to get fixed and whatnot. And like the biggest thing that I've been watching this show is just that they're fucking bored. They just throw these all these people into this cell, into these giant cells, these giant rooms and whatnot, stuff them in there like fucking sardines, and then they don't let them do anything. They can't, like there's no exercise for them. There's nothing for them to do. They just sit there and stew, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And of course they're gonna come back, and of course they're gonna act out on these things because there's nothing for them to do because there's no rehab. They have nothing to look forward to. They need to be taught how to, retaught how to work. Or some of them even to read and write and stuff like that. They just need help. And that's like, and after reading, researching about this guy, I was like, fuck, man. And watching this show, I'm just like, just fucking help them. Like, I don't understand why we can't just actually help people.
Well, that sounds like a lot of money right there.
I know.
I'm going to corporations and CEOs, and that just sounds like, actually fixing problems that seem to want to take my money away.
If it's not just one pill, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, and even though it's been proven that it's cheaper to help them instead of doing what we're doing now.
No. It's actually cheaper to go green, but I like my fossil fuels, damn it. And I make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah, fuck those two.
Oh man. Well, sadly, I don't think we're going to be able to solve the incarceration crisis we were facing here in one episode. Although I do think we're making some headway.
I'm thinking you're thinking too small here, Spoon. Come on, man.
Give everybody spoons.
Let's do it. Let's fucking go. Let's do it. It's over.
You want your freedom? Kill this pedophile with a spoon.
You are now a citizen. You now have the right to vote if you're.
This has been a chock full episode of just interesting facts about CD players, about the zombie game, about vigilante serial killers. And honestly, it's been a very fruitful one. Dan, Emily, again, one more time, where can everybody go to support you in the zombie game?
Yeah, our Kickstarter launches March 30th, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and Kickstarter at The Zombie Game.
The Zombie Game.
Tried to make it super easy to spell.
So, listeners, make sure you go support them. We have those links down below in the episode notes. And I keep making this mistake, and I have to remind myself. So, some of our content is not being put up on YouTube. That was a choice we made and was just one I forgot to keep mentioning on, but we're only talking about our audio episodes mainly. However, if you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Player FM, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts, make sure you check out the episode notes. Go follow, go support the zombie game, go support Emily and Dan and what they're doing. It's a fantastic graphic novel that we cannot wait to come out and get our hands on. We are excited to read it, and we're sure you amazing ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants are also excited. And if you want to keep up with everything that we are doing, make sure you like us and follow us on Facebook, Punk Rock Horror Podcast there, on our Twitter at official PRHP, or
on Instagram, Punk Rock Horror Podcast, hashtag PRHP Podcast.
You can follow me at the Undead Matt on Instagram, and you can also follow Cody on Twitter at KrampusCody. If you want to support the show in a financial way, you can do that either via donations from Anchor itself, or you can go to our Patreon and become a monthly subscriber, and you will get some fantastic rewards. Even for just $2 a month, you will still get some fantastic rewards there. Also, we do have merch available, so please check out teespring.com/punkrockhorrorpodcast. Those links are also in the notes below. Before we head out, Emily, Dan, is there any last words you want to give to all the amazing ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants?
I mean, we're looking forward to hanging out with you. So, just drop us a line and tell us what you think of the book.
Pressure.
But I just really wanted to thank you guys again for having us back. It's been absolutely a blast, and I learned some interesting facts about spoons.
They're very versatile.
They're good for
next week.
Eyes and
Sports.
The latest trend in utensils. Are they a fork? Or are they a spoon? Tune in for the answers. Again, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants, thank you again for hanging out for another episode of the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, and we will talk about horror with you next time.
Bye.
Bye.